I'm guessing the exposure's probably got me darkened out, but at least you get to see that river in the background, right? And this is a river where so many people have commented or emailed and said, you want to see a Sasquatch, have an experience, just go walk the Stamper Sumas River. And that's what's right behind me. And that mountain range back there in the horizon, that leads straight to Comox, Courtney. Comox Lake, where lots of shit's gone down. It's endless. Anyway, by the time you guys are reading this, I'm pounding away in the ocean. Actually in a 2-day fishing derby this weekend, coincidentally. Interesting if we managed to place. Now let's get some important voices heard, get some knowledge shared. Listen to this. Now, where are we? Weird, Florida. Florida Bigfoot's title this one. Hey Steve, this is Bill. I sent you an email which was very long, by the way, and 2 separate emails with some photos in them. I'm not positive if they got to you, as I don't email very often, but I really hope they found their way to you. Anyway, like I said, feel free to share any photos you would like, but I do have one request. After looking at the photos I sent you, I realized one of those photos of the tree peaker actually says the location on top of the screen. Alright, man. I don't think I've shared them. Alright? But I got this email. I will definitely go back and find them. Alright, man? Thanks for sending that. Voices. Alright. This next one is titled My Story. Hey Steve, my name is Roy LaPearl Jr. If you read this, feel free to use my name. I don't care what people think. Good for you. You're free. As far as I'm concerned, if people don't like what I have to say, it's their problem, not mine. I'm now 2 days short of my 49th birthday. I'm also a servant of the living God and his risen Son. Maybe that is why my story, what there is of, it went the way it does. My first encounter happened when I was around 9 or 10. My family was at hunting camp for opening of buck season. It was at night, and I had to use the outhouse, which was 30 yards or so from the cabin. It was on top of a mountain with some other camps along the road, but completely wooded alongside and behind. On my way back from doing my business, I was just coming up on the cabin porch when my instincts told me to look up and to the side of the cabin there above the mountain laurel, which was probably 6 or 7 foot, was probably a 6 or 7 foot tall, backlit by a light on the next cabin around 50 yards away. It was the silhouette of a large bipedal creature. I saw the head, shoulders clearly, approximately 3 feet above laurel. I could see the reflection of the eyes from the porch light. It was only about 10 feet from me. Fortunately, I was coming back from the outhouse. I ran in, told my parents. My dad and cabin owner went out and checked out, but it was gone. They said it must have been a bear, but I know better. It was way too big and the eyes were too far apart. The second time I saw it when I was around 14, and it was looking at us through the crook of a tree about 9 feet off the ground. There were 5 of us who saw it. We were just looking for deer behind our camp at night. This is in the valley of the mountain that the first sighting happened, but 90 yards away this time. We checked the ground in the daytime, and all the grass was flattened. The third time I was in my late 20s. My wife and I were sitting on the porch of our camp watching the mountain in the evening when we saw one cross a power line. Sorry so long. People commented they want to hear my story, so there they go. Keep spreading the truth and God bless. Alright, short and to the point. Hey Roy? Welcome to the club, man. Sounds like you've been in it for quite some time. It's endless. It is endless. Well, those are recent. I gotta get back down the list. What's this one? Grandfather's friend. Hi Steve, CH again. I have a question for you. Why does it seem like the more you try to figure out about these beings, the more you hear about them from people around oneself? I don't go asking random people, hey, you ever seen a Sasquatch? It's just people randomly bring it up. I went out for breakfast on May 28, 2022 with my wife and son to a local restaurant and ran into one of my grandfather's friends, who we'll call Mark, and that I've known for many years. He's 94 years old now and still pretty spry for his age, and knew my grandfather since he was about 29. As I've said in previous emails, my grandfather passed away back in March. Anyway, Mark invited us to sit with him for breakfast so we could visit. We sat and ate breakfast with Mark, and after breakfast he invited us over to his house that night to barbecue and to let my 4-year-old son fish in his private pond on his property. Mark lives on the Boise River here in Idaho on about 20 acres. He's 94 years old and he likes the company since his wife passed away in the early 90s. Anyway, we got to talking after dinner about my grandfather and the trouble they used to get into when they were working together. They worked for the Forest Service back around 56 or 57 on the trail crew, clearing trails and cutting new ones in the Seven Devils mountain range, which I also mentioned previously. Seven Devils. What a name to name some mountains. He still had the maps that they used to mark the trails and to document the new ones that they built, which was Mark's job since he had experience as a surveyor. Mark got the maps, spread them out on the table, and was showing me the trails they had worked on and built. I noticed 3 large X's on the map in pencil. I asked what the X's were, and he said they were for areas that they were to avoid. Now this spiked my interest because my grandpa always told me to stay out of the Seven Devils mountain range. I, of course, didn't listen very well. I told Mark this as we were looking at the maps, and he kind of smirked and shook his head, sat down next to me at the table. He asked me if I'd seen anything weird out in the mountains while hunting or hiking, and that my grandfather, Red, had ever told me anything about Sasquatch. I told Mark that I'd seen one, and told him the story about me and my friend shooting the one that had killed my dog. He sat there shaking his head the whole time. Then noticed I was done telling him all this. He looked at me and asked, after all that, do I believe they are real? A couple people behind me, man and a dog. I told him I know what I saw, that it wasn't my imagination, that I had killed my dog. Mark then told me that the X's on the map represent every time they saw a Sasquatch when they had worked for the Forest Service. He said that my grandfather had been there all 3 times, that they had seen one, and that it had scared my grandfather to the point he almost quit his job. After Mark told me this, I was kind of in shock that he was telling me this and that my grandfather never had. I asked him why it had scared my grandfather so bad and why he was telling me about it now. His reply kind of stunned me. Mark told me that the boss of the trail crew had reported it to his boss, and that the boss said if they ever spoke of it, they would be fired on the spot. Pricks. Mark told me the reason he was telling me this now is because I'm always out in the forest, that now that my grandfather was gone, he was the only one still alive that had seen it. He said that he was positive it was the same one on all 3 occasions. He said it was about 9 feet tall, had reddish black hair, and that it had a grayish streak of hair on its left shoulder. He said the shoulder width was about 4 feet, that its arms hung down past its waist, and that it had brownish eyes that looked almost human. He said its hands were large and the fingers were void of hair, and that it never made a noise on the 3 times they saw it. He said it was definitely male. He asked how he was able to make out these details so clearly, and he said that they were only 30 feet from it in one of the 2 occasions. Mark had that far-off look at this point, as if he was reliving the whole experience, and I could tell it was shaking him up. I didn't want to keep asking questions because it still obviously scared him, still to this day, but he kept going. He said the Sasquatch never made any threatening moves or threw anything at them, but was almost curious about them. They would back out of there slowly and head back down to camp and pack up and go up a different trail that they were going to be working on. He said my grandfather was worried that they were in its territory and that he didn't want anything to do with it since they weren't allowed to carry a gun. It was against the Forest Service policy. Mark said that after that year, the Forest Service closed those trails and stopped maintaining them. He worked for the Forest Service until he retired in '98. He worked in the Seven Devils off and on through the years, but he'd never returned to the area where he saw the Sasquatch. After telling me this story, he folded up the maps and put them in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag and gave me the maps and told me to keep them and to mark on the maps if and when I ever see one of these beings again, and to make sure I tell my wife and son about them and to not hide it from them. He said they needed to know that these beings are out there and could possibly be dangerous. Mark telling me this has answered some questions for me, but has also brought up new questions, such as, if the Forest Service knows of these creatures, why are they blatantly hiding the information about them? Why are these beings showing themselves to us? And still, the question I want an answer to is, why kill my dog? These are questions I would like answers to. Steve, I hope this email finds you and your family in good health, and you are out enjoying some of those beautiful places you like to go explore. Keep the powder dry, CH. Got you, man. Really, really appreciate that. As soon as I hear of the senior population of our communities speak out, I listen intently. They're possibly one of the last few tainted individuals today, right? I want to know why as well. I've said it a few times. Why the dogs? Why? And why are they lying? And I have a feeling that our favorite scientists know why they're to be silenced, and I'm really hoping that in the package they are creating, they're gonna directly tell us why, because they said flat out the government knows. Not that I give a shit about the government. I want to know why the truths are held from us. I don't give a shit who is ultimately responsible for holding back the truth. I guess I do, but I want to know why. Why? I know the government, people in government are too stupid. That's a fact. Smart people don't go into government. And just like, I believe it was Edgar or the other scientists who shared previously that even the president is only there temporarily and does not have access to all the true secret knowledge is kept from us. Right? Handful of people around here. You can see an old guy fly fishing down there. Kind of fun to watch. Another old guy up there with his dog in the river. Somebody pulling their dog down the way. Alright, here we go. This is titled Life Outside This World, The Lie. Steve, you may be the first person with an eat shit attitude toward authority as big as mine I've ever seen. Mine is from seeing through the veil all my life. My grandfather, a naval intelligence who never let us buy the lies and pointed them out, surely helped to shape my awareness. Good for him. I love hearing that. We're 5 years old. We lived with demons in our homes. They attacked us and froze us regularly. Eventually, my youngest brother and I became exorcists. You talk about trusting your gut. That knowledge is your second brain in your heart. Ask First Nations medicine man. It's there to steer you in the right direction when your mind is being twisted by entities. Deep? Yes, it is. Deeper than 99.999% of sheeple will ever know or can understand. Bigfoot, Dogman, Chupacabra, Thunderbird, and other cryptics, to use false vernacular, are real. I've seen or experienced most of them. They eat people and the government knows it. They're only killed when they become high profile by creating situations where they can't be denied. Yes, there are specific detachments of soldiers trained and equipped to hunt them all. UFOs and aliens. Here's the ultimate spin doctrine. First of all, I know for a fact we never went to the moon. Never, epping, ever. We have nothing in our outer atmosphere orbit. It's all Star Wars make-believe. It's why they killed Kubrick. Ask yourself this. Why don't Musk's rockets that return from space have the re-entry burns? The farce shuttles did. No biologic bending can survive a vacuum past 5 seconds, and there is no protection for it. You boil, just like all the monkeys and animals they blew up in the late 50s. Think about it. Why not just vacuum chambers to practice for space? Why a zero-G plane and not giant swimming pools? Hello, McFlies. Hello, McFlies. Think, don't listen to their shit. You can see the bubbles from their leaky suits in their BS spacewalks. What does this mean? Aliens are terrestrial. They are just from inside the Earth. Why are they seen entering and exiting the oceans constantly? I wonder. Check out the mouth of the Amazon in South America. It's practically a runway for UFOs. I watched them abduct my brother many, many times. They carried him through the house wall and disappeared for hours. He has had things removed from his body all of his life. Has the scars to prove it. They're always sent to Stanford, allegedly, and no report has ever returned about them, despite the great efforts of some brave doctors who demanded to know what the hell the things they pulled from him were. They were told to leave it be and stop asking. One persistent doctor, another abductee, was told to shut the F up for his own good. The US had an anti-gravity craft in 1958. We have weaponry so far advanced, Darth Vader would be jealous. The moon videos were shot in a junkyard outside Flagstaff, Arizona. In the original footage, since doctored, there's a Camaro like yours and a 40 Ford in the dirt of two scenes. The inner craft generate clouds around themselves to hide in plain sight. I'm sending you a picture of an aircraft carrier, size 1, having its cover literally blown away in high wind, gust of about 70 knots. Pay attention to the sharp lines around it and the hull shape at the bottom. This is north of Vegas, 40 miles from super secret Creech Air Force Base, 100 miles from Area 51, Groom Lake, and a couple hundred or so from S4. The real deal top secret facility. We've seen many of these all over the area. Why did I send you this? Because I'm so sick and tired of people believing all the lies. The so-called authorities and phony experts dump on them like manure. I was thrown off YouTube in 2005. I've sent you warnings about your content because I know how quick you could end up with a Pentagon general in your face threatening your life. Bring it on. He's just a human being. I'm old and I've been where 99% of people will never go. I've died and come back, seen hell, battled demons from 6 years old, been pulled from my body by an angel, been attacked by demons in the flesh, and more crazy things movies are made of than you can imagine. I'm sick and tired of people buying the enormous shit show created to keep them in chains. I know, you know this in your gut. As well, nothing you hear from any government is true. It's all to control and fleece the masses. Nothing to see here, keep moving. I can tell you this for sure, Steve. Time is short, but then you have that knowing in your gut already telling you this, don't you? I know you do from what you say. Go out to your sanctuary, nature, sit down, feel the earth, breathe the air, open your mind to God, Steve. Ask to understand what it's all about. No peyote, no medicine men, no physicists, just you and the Creator of everything you live in. Be still and listen. You were chosen for what you're doing here, Steve. Find out why. I'll be praying for your encounter with the Creator. You will likely be answered in dreams and visions over time. I'll also be praying the entities of the enemy are barred from your mind. Those who don't recognize God and the spiritual world will never know the truth and perish eternally. Your watcher, Mark. P.S. I'll quote a Pentagon general. I don't want to be on Earth when people learn the truth. And there you go. Take from it what you will, people, or leave it. I can relate to a lot of what was just said there. Appreciate what you just wrote and shared, my man. Appreciate it. If I could have an aggressive Pentagon general show up in my face, I would probably love that myself, as long as it was in private and there's only two of us. Take from what you will or leave it, people. And if you want to email us back with more detailed information of what you know, how you know it, I'm sure many people would be interested to hear from you again, all right? Now, moved to Alaska, drove the Alaskan. Hi there, Steve. This is Ariel Mitchell again. I recently moved to Alaska and have had a couple of things happen since I last rode in. On my drive through Canada, which I gotta say, BC is absolutely gorgeous. It's really a shame to have such a beauty place run by such bad people. I agree. I would make stops every 8 to 12 hours to take a cat nap before jumping back on the road, and most of these stops had nothing out of the ordinary except for one stop, which was right before I crossed into the Yukon at Beaver Dam Creek stop, which I can tell you right now has a shitload of Sasquatch sightings there. We were the only vehicle there and it was starting to get dark. We noticed immediately that there were lots of large canine prints in the snow and thought it might be wolves. Not positive on that though. So we kept our dog with us when we were outside, didn't spend too much time outdoors. We were traveling with an RV trailer. The feeling at this place is like we were trespassing and we were being watched. It had us very on edge. At one point I went to use the public bathroom. I had to force myself not to walk too fast or act scared. I thought back of everything said in your videos though and decided to do something. It might have been silly or not. I'm not sure it made any difference. But I said out loud before walking back to the RV, we're not here to bother you. We just need to rest and we will be gone. I tried to rest once back in the RV, but the feeling of unwelcome became too much for me though, and I got us back on the road. Before I left, I decided to tell my husband how I was feeling and ask if he felt anything or noticed anything. He said yes, and pointed out the exact spots I had also been wary of. I didn't point them out to him before asking. He said that when he went to the bathroom, he felt like something was watching and might try to take him or get him. We never saw anything though, no eyes or anything. My dog was on edge a bit as well and did let out a low growl at one point during her walk. That was it. We're not sure if there was wolves nearby or a sabby or anything else, but it certainly didn't like us there, whatever it was. Now, since being in Alaska, we've camped out while looking for our new home, and most of the time it's very peaceful, but occasionally it'll get very quiet in the forest. Birds stop chirping, no animals rustling around. I'm careful to pay attention as we are in bear country, but so far haven't seen, smelled, or heard any. The sudden quiet usually lasts between a few minutes to a couple of hours. Then the animals seem to continue like nothing happened. There's a day when there were some construction vehicles nearby putting gravel on the road for a couple of hours, and I stepped outside to see what was going on. As I did, I swore that I saw something large standing in the trees in front of me and seemed to be facing the road like he was also seeing what was going on, and in a blink of an eye, there was nothing there. I stood there and blinked a couple times and tried to see if maybe it was a trick of the light, shadowing, or my poor eyesight was just getting worse, but I couldn't make sense of it besides feeling like he was maybe seeing things. That's what we all like to tell ourselves. I haven't had any visual like that thing that I haven't had any visual thing like that happen since, but I have had a couple of very vivid dreams. The first one was while the snow had still not melted and I had gone outside to do chores. When I looked up, there was a sabby standing in the road watching me. I froze for a moment, slowly started to approach me. I then immediately turned around and briskly walked back to the RV while calling back behind me, "Sorry, I just can't today, I'm busy." I then immediately woke up. I guess I didn't want to seem impolite. The second dream was a couple of weeks later after the snow had melted. I was sitting at the bench with my husband eating chocolate. When I turned my head, there was a sabby head sticking through the tree looking at me. The sabby had longer hair and seemed older than the first. I froze a moment with shaky hands, offered my chocolate, and then I woke up. After both these dreams, I've woken up feeling odd and unsure how to feel about it. Since the last dream, nothing's happened. I wonder if, like some have written in about, they are testing me, or if the activity is just slowly ramping up, or maybe I'm going bonkers. You mentioned a couple times in the past that government keeps this stuff from the people because of the belief that we couldn't handle it. And at first I disagreed that people wouldn't be able to handle knowing, but after listening more and more and thinking about it, I can understand how that would be true. For some like me, who have been learning slowly, it's easier to take the information in, while for others like yourself, when it's suddenly thrown in your face, most have a hard time taking it in and wind up with PTSD or extreme fear of going out again. With that being said, thank you, Steve, for what you do. We need you to help us learn about the things going on in our world and what beings are here around us without our knowledge. Without you on here, a lot of us would be going around getting scared shitless and feeling alone. Anyway, I'll write in anything if anything happens again. We'll be moving into the Chugach Forest. Not sure if there's been any activity reported out there. Stay safe out there, everyone, and don't forget to live and let yourself enjoy life. Absolutely appreciate your email. Really appreciate it. The Chugach, I hiked up into the Chugach Mountains solo by myself 3 times. One time I left a handful of trail cameras on a slope way off anywhere anybody would ever be walking. I found a bunch of doll sheep fur rubbed off on these rocks underneath this big spruce tree, and I strategically strapped some cameras on that tree trunk to get trail camera videos of the rams, the sheep, and then I went back a year later and every single camera was gone. Like, what? That just did not make sense, but it is what it is. That's all I got for that zone. I didn't feel uneasy there at all, except when I bumped into a grizzly bear once. But anyway. I suppose I should probably be getting going on, unless I get a short one here. I just went to the dump, took a truckload of stuff there, and I'm supposed to come home, pack, and leave. Sarah's probably wondering where the hell I am. Wow, this is a real long one. I'll have to read this one later. The title's Bigfoot Grabbed Me When I Was 11. Holy shizzle. I'll mark that one as number 1, so that next time I crack it open, it's in my face. How long's this one? Here's another real long one. This is titled Several Up Close Encounters and Close Calls. I'll have to mark that as number 2 for next time I come out. Here's a short one. We'll close on this short one right here. There's no title. Don't know what it says. Well, my name is Mountain Man because I spend a lot of time in the mountains through the year and I live in New York. I started to watch your videos on YouTube. I want to tell you one of the many stories I have about having interaction and experience with the one that some call Sasquatch, Hairman, people of the woods, shadow walkers, and Bigfoot. So this one interaction which I had was back in the spring of 2008. It was the first weekend of May and it was spring turkey season. My hunting partner and I was sleeping in a lean-to deep in and remote area of a mountain. It starts to rain around 1 in the morning and I was awakened from heavy breathing just feet away. First I thought it was my hunting partner, but then the smell hit me. I thought it was a bear, but when the lightning flashed in the background, I saw a Sasquatch standing there. And then it started coming in the lean-to with us. What? I jumped up, my 12 gauge in hand, and this Sasquatch had realized there was something else in the lean-to. He had turned to my right and ran into the bottom base side log that sticks out 3 feet, and this Sasquatch had moved the lean-to almost off its footing to the right, which at this point my partner was awake now as well. And for the rest of that night, both my partner and I didn't get no sleep at all, no doubt. Because Sasquatch was doing circles around the lean-to, and after we got the fire going again, we had rocks and sticks thrown at us for the rest of the night, and that whooping sound. We didn't even get to go out hunting that morning because Sasquatch didn't even leave till dawn. I found the track, but it looked like it had been tried to be cleaned up as if to cover its tracks. I'm a big game hunter and a half-breed 3rd generation from the Mohawk Nation. I grew up in the mountains all my life, and I know every animal that's living in the mountains, and I know what I seen that night. And I still get that same feeling as to what I had that night. And yes, you can read my email in your next video on YouTube, and if you'll be willing to hear the rest of the interaction experience I had with the Sasquatch, I'll be more than willing to do so. Sincerely yours, Mountain Man. Of course I want to hear it. Get it in, man. Send it in. I want to hear everything, all right? I want to hear every little piece of knowledge you have or any of your friends have that you can share via you through me to us, all right? Now, I gotta go. I'm late and I'm gonna be in trouble. And then I had to start traveling in this smoking hot day. 2 hours logging to travel in this heat sucks, but have a great weekend, you guys. I'll talk to you shortly.